Okay, we are on a absolute marathon. I actually haven't stopped recording. I've only slowly stopped to edit, and then basically I jump back in. This is fun. So much coffee in my system. Here we go. We are now going to make the dog class in order for us to start making queries. Now, I'm not going to make the whole thing. I'm going to make the basis of it, and then we're also going to be covering the select statement. So like getting all of the dogs, getting one dog, and then we're going to cut it there just so that we can kind of separate each portion. So let's go ahead and create the file inside, of the dog app. We're going to make dog.py, just like that. Okay. And the first thing we need to do is import our function that we created at the bottom here, because we need to be able to call MySQL connection. So let's go ahead and do that. So from MySQL connection, import, I think I did that wrong. Connect, there we go. Connect to MySQL. So now we officially have this particular function ready to go. Let's go ahead and define our class dog. Right, so let's do init, right? Self, it's going to take in data. That data is going to be whenever we need to make a class instantiation to convert class objects to an actual object we can read in the console. It's important. So let's go ahead and define what's going to happen here. So we have self.id equals the data that we get in, and then ID, right? Just like that. And what else do we have for the dogs? Dname, I think, right? So why don't we do dname, self.dname, and then what we have? Breed. Breed, self.breed. I think that's, oh no, we had age as well. So one more. Let's do age. I know I didn't do a created at and updated at. But the idea will be the same, right? It could be applied anywhere here. So we define the init as that. Why is this not being, it's because it's not, look at that. We got to make sure things are indented. Python is whining. All right. So here's our initialization. We have our ID, our dname, our breed, and age. I'm pretty sure that's all we did. If there's more, I'll add them in a minute. So the first thing that we want to do in order to grab all the data, right, is we want to define a function that does that. Now, it needs to be a class method because we need to filter it through the class itself, okay? So we're going to define a getAll. GetAll function, which we need to pass the CLS, the class, into. And inside, we're going to generate our query. Now, I'm going to do a multi-line query, which is 3 single quotes, 3 more single quotes, and I'm going to tab a little bit. There we go. And we want to do a select statement. Select all from, and then the name of our particular database, which we haven't actually said yet. Select all from dogs, right? That was the name of our table. And we want a results from, okay, we want to make sure we're returning the results from the MySQL connection we had. So this is the function that we passed in. So that's what we're going to call connect to MySQL. It takes in a database name. Now, if we're going to make multiple functions that all say the same database, it may be a better idea to do a global class variable. All caps, DB equals, and then I believe it was what? Dog DB. So now I have a global database variable. In here now, I have the ability to say cls.db. And I can define that in the rest. By doing so, I only have to change one spot and the rest get updated. Now, our function that we declared to query a DB is literally called query DB. So inside, we're going to do query DB, which takes in a query. If we remember in here, it takes in a query and then the data, right? In this case, we only need to send in query. And that's why we declared this as a default of none, because we may not need it. In this case, we're grabbing data. We don't actually need more. Now, if we want to be able to display everything that comes out of here, why don't we do a quick test so that we can see what's going on? Why don't we print results, right? So we get a good idea of what's happening. Now we have to import dog into our main file. So we're going to do under here from dog import dog. And then inside of our route, right before we return, we're going to do capital DOG dot get all, right? And then we're supposed to, no, that should be right. So let's go ahead and run that. So I'm going to do my pipenv shell, and then flask run. There it goes. I believe I still have it up. There it is. Now let's see what we got returned. There it is. It is our array of dictionaries. You see it here? We're getting ID 1, dname biscuit, age 2, breed pitbull. So we've officially made connection with the SQL server, calling this method from dog right here. Okay. Now, there is something we can do to make this more class specific. Okay. In order to get use out of this, we can filter them, the results that is, through the class itself. So we can do for dog in results, a loop, right? We're going to, well, we should probably declare a dogs list like that. And then we can do dogs.append. And then inside, we're actually going to filter it through the class itself, dog. Okay? And then at the end, we're going to return dogs. Just like that. And it keeps putting my secret key out. Let me just, let me get rid of that. All right. So now, this is actually going to return something. So why don't we print what it returns? Just like this. Print it out. Refresh. And look what we get. Dog objects. Okay? These are no longer easily read. But that's okay. We now have them in classes, which is what we want. So, inside of here, we've officially gotten all dogs. Right? Every single dog that we could out from just this one method inside the class. So let's just review really quick. We made a class method that allows us to use the class in here. We defined a query, select all from dogs, right? We're familiar with that with SQL. We have a results variable, which is equal to connecting to my SQL, which is what we imported here. And we defined down here, which returns this entire SQL object for parsing queries. Inside of it, we passed the database name. We created a global database name in dog called DB, which is dogDB. So that's what we're seeing here, dogDB. And then we're accessing the query DB method on MySQL connection, which is right here, which takes in a query and data optionally. Otherwise, it's none. We passed in said query. Okay, so we're seeing select all from dog. So let's follow it in here. We try the query. It's successful because there is no data to merge, so this is naturally going to work out. We execute said query, so now it's sitting in the command line. We're checking if it's insert. It is not. We're checking if it's select. It is. So it returns from the cursor a fetch all. So this ends here, and then we close the connection automatically. Back in here, we have now returned dogs, all of them. You saw it. It was a list of dictionaries to results. Now we declare a new variable called dogs, which is an empty list. Then for each dog, which is the variable we declare in results, okay, that list of dictionaries, we're going to append to dogs a class filtered version of dog. And then we return dogs. So back to server, we are printing what that returns, which is dog objects. We can see them here. Now let's cover getting a single dog out. Well, we need another class method, right? We're going to define get1. Get1. Now this one is going to take in a class, but also an ID. That ID is absolutely necessary in order to work. So naturally, sorry, we're going to want to make a query again. Oops, I forgot this. Query equals, just like before. That's not what I wanted to do. Thank you for strangely trying to make that make sense. All right, so from here, we're going to do the same idea. Select all from dogs. The only difference is now we're going to do where. And here we're going to have to do a computed string. So we do this, and we type in ID. Okay? And we're going to say where ID equals our computed ID, and then we're going to end the statement there. Always put a semicolon because you're open to SQL injection otherwise. We're going to put in that ID that is going to come through here. Okay, we're going to pass the ID in when we call this function on the class. That ID is going to get parsed into this. So we now have the query set up. Now we could probably just return it directly. We can return the connect to MySQL again. Now we already know the database name. It's class.db, just like that. And then, like always, we want to query the DB. And this time, we're going to set in query just like before, but the next thing needs to be a dictionary. We need to be able to throw that ID in. We can't do this because that's just a raw number, and it doesn't work like that. We need to send in a dictionary with a key that says ID, and then ID that we set through as the parameter. By doing so, that fulfills this need of it being a dictionary. Okay? Also, the ID will match what we see up here. Okay? We'll have some kind of data that comes through, and then ID will be a key on it. We want that. And then the value of it is what we need. Now, we want to also parse this because it's a select statement through the class. So we highlight it, parentheses, and then CLS. Okay? That guarantees that it's going to filter this to the class. But right now, it's still going to return a list. So right before that last parenthesis, we want to make sure that we say, I want the first one, the first index of this list in particular. Okay, so this is all set up. Let me go through it one more time. We define another class method called getOne. It takes the class in, and then the ID. We query it, select all from dogs where ID equals, and then the ID in particular that we're sending through. We return a class filtered connect to MySQL, passing in the database, .querydb. We send in our query. And then the second parameter has to be a dictionary, so we send ID through as an ID. Now it's going to send back a list, even though there's only one thing in it, so we want to specify just that first thing. Okay? So let's go into here and do the same thing. Now we don't have any form data, so we're just going to do it like this, and then I'm going to send in 1. So let's see what comes back when I do that. We're going to refresh. And you see that? We get 1 dog object, which is what we expected. Now, there's no way to know if 1 was correct, but it is most likely the correct one because it actually returned 1. So that's good. I guess if we wanted to test it, we can temporarily take off the class filter, right? And then we refresh. And there we go. So ID 1, we did get it back, right? And approved just because I might have just been filtering that first one. Let me go ahead and refresh like this. And we get the correct one with ID of 3. I hope that this has kind of opened up the idea of what's going on here. Next, we're going to move into insert, which means we're going to have to make a form and get ready to also display this data so we can see it.